Also join me in welcoming our distinguished guest, Dr. Asijit Datta, Assistant Professor in the Department of Liberal Arts at SRM University, Andhra Pradesh. I invite him to come forward. Also join me in welcoming our students to Dr. Asijit Datta with tokens of appreciation in the Department of Liberal Arts at SRM University, Andhra Pradesh. I invite him to come forward. Also join me in welcoming our students to Dr. Asijit Datta with tokens of appreciation in the Department of Liberal Arts.
Now,
at
our
SRM
student will extend a
University,
warm welcome to
Andhra
Professor
Pradesh.
Nirmal Kumar
I
Shakar,
invite him to come
Professor
forward. Also join me
Department of
in
Biological
welcoming
Science,
our
Midnapore City College.
Dr. Asijit Datta.
I invite our student to honor
in the
him
Department of
with
Liberal Arts.
felicitations.
at
Our
SRM
student will extend a
University,
warm welcome to
Andhra
Professor
Pradesh.
Nirmal Kumar
I
Shakar,
invite him to come
Professor
forward. Also join
Department
me
of
in
Biological
welcoming
Science,
our
Midnapore City College.
students to Dr. Asijit Datta.
In this momentous occasion, kindly join us in the tradition. We express our sincere gratitude to you, our distinguished guest. In this momentous occasion, kindly join us in the tradition. We express our sincere gratitude to you, our distinguished guest. In this momentous occasion, kindly join us in the tradition. We express our sincere gratitude to you, our distinguished guest. In this momentous occasion, kindly join us in the tradition. We express our sincere gratitude to you, our distinguished guest. In this momentous occasion, kindly join us in the tradition. We express our sincere gratitude to you, our distinguished guest. In this momentous occasion, kindly join us in the tradition. We express our sincere gratitude to you, our distinguished guest. In this momentous occasion, kindly join us in the tradition. We express our sincere gratitude to you, our distinguished guest.
Now I kindly ask our delegates to commence the ceremonial watering of the plant, symbolizing our commitment to environmental stewardship. Through this gesture, our conference aims to convey a profound message of sustainability. To convey a profound message of sustainability. To convey a profound message of sustainability.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Presently, our student will imbue the conference atmosphere.
To convey a profound message of sustainability. With
Thank you,
this, we
sir. Thank
formally
you, ma'am.
inaugurate our conference by opening the abstract book.
Presently, our
I
student will
invite
imbue
our
the
honored
conference
guests to perform
atmosphere.
this auspicious task. Everyone, please join your hands with a hearty round of applause. Everyone, please join your hands in this moment.
Presently, our student will imbue the conference atmosphere with their musical performance, setting a delightful tone for the proceedings.
Hello, hello.
সুন্দর জগতে তবু কি মহোৎসব বন্দন করে বিশ্ব শ্রী সম্পদ ভূমাস্পদ নির্ভয় শরণে আনন্দ লোকে মঙ্গলালোকে বিরাজ সত্য সুন্দর সত্য সুন্দর
Thank you, girls, for their beautiful performance. Now let us seamlessly transition into the scheduled event of our seminar. I cordially invite Professor Nirmal Kumar Sharkar, Department of Biological Science, Midnapore City College, to deliver the inaugural address on behalf of our institution.
Honorable Founder Director of this college, Dr. Pradeep Ghosh, respected Principal, Dr. Sudipta Chakraborty, respected Vice Principal, Dr. Kuntal Ghosh, distinguished resource persons and guests from different institutes, learned colleagues, dear staff members, researchers, and student participants. Good morning, everybody. It is my proud privilege to make a prelude in this inaugural part of the one-day national seminar on decolonizing nature, literary contexts, organized by the Department of English of Midnapore City College. At the outset, I confess that I am practically an intruder in this seminar, as because I belong to the wing of biological science rather than any literature department. My sense or knowledge of literature is hardly any better than that of an ignorant person. Whatsoever, probably on account of my old age, the organizers selected me as their first speaker. Now, I would like to extend hearty welcome on behalf of all members of this college to Dr. Pradeep Ghosh, Honorable Founder Director of this college, Dr. Sudipta Chakraborty, Principal of this college, Dr. Kuntal Ghosh, Vice Principal, as well as all the distinguished resource persons and guests, teachers, researchers, and students participating in this seminar from this college and other institutes. Now I would like to brief everyone in the hall, especially the students, about this college. Our college happens to be the first self-financing undergraduate cum postgraduate college in South Bengal. It is affiliated with both Vidyasagar University and West Bengal University of Health Sciences. and it is recognized by the Higher Education Department as well as the Directorate of Medical Education, Government of West Bengal, the University Grants Commission, as well as the Department of Scientific and Industrial Research, Government of India. The foundation stone of this college was laid on 6th February of 2017, and the college started functioning in a single two-storied building on 10th August of 2017 with just 134 postgraduate and 20 undergraduate students. But there have been dramatic changes, both quantity-wise and quality-wise, in the scenario within the last 7 years. All these changes are primarily due to the untiring efforts, enviable tenacity, and farsightedness of Dr. Pradeep Ghosh, who is not only the director, but also synonymous with the heart, lung, as well as brain of this college. As compared to a single two-storied building in 2017, the college now spans across 3 multi-storied buildings accompanied by a few small annexures. Again, as compared to only 154 students in 2017, the student strength reached a total of 6,186 in 2023, which included 3,700 undergraduate and 2,486 postgraduate students. At present, the college teaches as many as 19 postgraduate and 17 undergraduate courses under Vidyasagar University, and additionally the college teaches 4 postgraduate and 2 undergraduate courses under West Bengal University of Health Sciences. Moreover, this is the only college in the 2 Midnapore districts which teaches 10 job-oriented courses on agriculture, fishery science, hospital administration, medical laboratory technology, medical microbiology, etc. It is my pleasure to mention here that as of 31st January 2024, as many as 3,544 or 57.3% of the total 6,186 students are receiving one or another kind of scholarship from Government of West Bengal and Government of India for their studies. It is also worth mentioning here that in the last 3 years, 14 of our postgraduate students qualified the NET, 7 qualified the SET, 10 cracked the GATE, and another 3 cracked the GEST. We are also happy because some of the alumni of this college could ensure their placement as researchers in reputed institutes of South Korea and Germany, in addition to IIT Mumbai, IIT Delhi, and IISc Bangalore. At present, we have more than 25 well-equipped laboratories containing various research instruments. Since December 2021, Vidyasagar University has sanctioned PhD Research Center status to our college. Till now, 34 research scholars have already got their registration from Vidyasagar University for their PhD pursuit under the supervision of different teachers of this college. They get scholarship from different funding agencies. Moreover, 10 prospective researchers are now under training process and receiving monthly Moraine Research Fellowship from this college itself. We are indeed happy to add here that 6 talented teachers of our college have been utilizing research grants over 4.69 crores of rupees from different funding agencies for implementation of their research projects. These 6 teachers include Dr. Shravani Pradhan, the coordinator of nutrition-related sciences, Dr. Kuntal Ghosh, who happens to be a former postdoctoral fellow in Chonbuk National University of South Korea and now vice principal of this college, Dr. Shuchishmita Roy, a diligent teacher of nutrition-related sciences, Dr. Shantanu Kaur Mahapatra, head, Department of Paramedical and Allied Health Sciences, Dr. Sudipta Chakraborty, who happens to be a former postdoctoral fellow in Rush University Medical Center of Chicago and in Masonic Cancer Center of University of Minnesota, Twin Cities of the United States of America, and now principal of this college. And the number 6 is Dr. Shubhendu Kumar Manna, an energetic assistant professor of physics. Now, turning all your attention to today's seminar. This is the third seminar being organized by the Department of English of this college. The theme of this seminar is Decolonizing Nature, Literary Context. The title of the seminar connotes human attempts to set the nature free of human devastations and distractions, and to maintain ecological balance. In today's seminar, valuable deliberations will be made by 4 eminent academicians from different universities on ecofeminism, eco-consciousness, along with environmental justice and post-humanism. In addition to the invited lectures, around 20 research papers will be presented by research scholars and teachers or academicians of this college and other institutes. We are lucky to have amongst us today Professor Sambit Panigrahi, who is professor and head of the Department of English in Ravenshaw University of Cuttack. His academic interests circle around Joseph Conrad, modern literature, and postmodern literature. Professor Panigrahi has authored some critical books like Patriarchy Against Nature, Woman, and Voices from Africa. He is also a renowned translator. His notable translation works include Ajivaka's Laughter and The Dance of the Ghost and Other Stories. He has a very large number of publications in different international journals to his credit. He has presented in research work in various national and international conferences, including one in the University of Wisconsin of the United States of America. As many as 21 scholars have earned their PhD or MPhil degree under his direct supervision. We fervently welcome Professor Panigrahi and eagerly wait for his valuable deliberations. It is our proud privilege again to have amongst us today Professor Joyjeet Ghosh, who is professor and head of the Department of English in Vidyasagar University of Midnapore. His academic interests revolve around British literature, Indian writing in English, Bangla Dalit literature, and also environmental studies. He served as the deputy coordinator of the UGC DRS SAP project on Adivasi and folk literature and culture of West Bengal. He has numerous publications to his credit and has presented his research work in different national and international level conferences. He has authored a book entitled Imaging D.H. Lawrence, His Mind and Art in Letters, that received acclaim from Lawrence scholars all over the globe. He has also edited some important books like The Bleeding Border, The Stories of Bengal Partition, and Eco-Disaster Imaginaries in India, Essays in Critical Perspectives. We cordially welcome Professor Ghosh and sincerely wait for his valuable deliberations. We are lucky to have amongst us today Professor Indranil Acharya, who happens to be professor and former head of the Department of English in Vidyasagar University. His academic interests include Australian indigenous traditions, Indian indigenous traditions, and Dalit literature of West Bengal. Professor Acharya authored or edited or translated several important books like Beyond the Sense of Belonging, Race, Class and Gender in the poetry of Yeats and Eliot. Survival and Other Stories, Anthology of Bangla Dalit Stories, Towards Social Change, Essays on Dalit Literature, etc. Professor Acharya is the chief editor of Janajati Darpan, the only international multilingual journal from Bengal on tribal studies. Professor Acharya is also the state coordinator of People's Linguistics Survey of India. He has numerous publications to his credit and has presented his research work in different national and international conferences or seminars, including one in a conference in Virginia of the United States and Lancaster University of the United Kingdom. We extend our heartfelt welcome to Professor Acharya and patiently wait for his informative deliberations. It is our proud privilege to have amongst us today Dr. Asijit Datta, Assistant Professor of in SRM University of Andhra Pradesh. In addition to English literature, he is an expert in film studies. Dr. Datta's academic interests circle around post-humanism, Beckett studies, zombie studies, modern European theater, world cinema, and psychoanalysis. He has got a large number of publications to his credit and presented his work in different national and international conferences. He is an assistant editor of Journal of Post-Humanism and also a member of the editorial board of the journal Studies in the Fantastic. Over the last 4 years, Dr. Datta has built an independent academic channel in the YouTube which conducts interviews with renowned scholars worldwide. We warmly welcome Dr. Datta and eagerly wait for his insightful deliberations. Finally, I take this opportunity once again to welcome all the resource persons, guests as well as teachers, researchers and students participating in this seminar from this college and other institutes. I believe this seminar will ensure a flow of knowledge as well as blessings from the experts to the novice. Till then, I wish you all a nice time in this college. However, before I stop, I beg for an unconditioned apology from everybody in the hall because I am preoccupied with some academic assignments in this college as well as Vidyasagar University today. As such, I have to leave this hall very soon. And that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Let us gracefully segue into the conference agenda. I kindly invite Professor Uttam Kumar Jaina, Associate Professor of English, KD College of Commerce and General Studies, to extend a warm welcome to our distinguished guest on behalf of our college.
Good morning, everyone present in this August gathering for this one-day national seminar organized by Midnapore City College. At the outset of this seminar, I, on behalf of the seminar committee, invite our honorable guests to this seminar. I invite Professor Sambit Panigrai, who has come from far away Cuttack. He is the head and professor of English department in Ravenshaw University. I welcome him onto the stage. I welcome Dr. Professor Joyjit Ghosh, head of the Department of English, Vidyasagar University, to grace this occasion. It is my happiness to welcome Professor Indranil Acharya onto the stage to grace this occasion. And I would like to welcome onto the stage Dr. Asijit Datta, the Assistant Professor of English, who has come from far away Andhra Pradesh to grace this occasion. So today's seminar, the Decolonizing Nature, is on a burning issue when in this juncture of time, every year almost, an environmental world conference is going on, because the world is actually, the whole earth is in crisis geographically, and when it comes to the social dimension, existence on this earth is threatened. But this process of a threat to nature, it has begun with the industrialization that had started in faraway Europe. And after that, when the process of colonialism began, the impact had its far-reaching implications. So when the West started exploring the world in the name of civilizing the other world, their discourse defines the other world, means the colonized world, as the wild and the wilderness, which they found to be exotic. The people were defined to be disorderly, uncivilized, uncultured, but they categorized not only the society of people who were living there. The Oriental discourse had colonized both man and nature. They created landscapes in which they found that uncivilized people are living and nature to be a resource. So the concept of nature as a resource, that has risen to the notion of exploitation of nature. This tendency, it had its far-reaching impact when they started administration in different landscapes, like in Asia, in Africa, and everywhere, where the main purpose, the main interest of those people, colonizers, was to incorporate into the mind of the natives a distinction between man and nature. But in these parts of the world, which was taken to be a wild world, nature and man were together. The first categorization of nature that the colonizers wanted to make was to distinguish between man and nature as something, as an object to be investigated, to put into the experimental laboratory. So gradually, the organic symbiotic relationship between man and nature was tried to be disintegrated. Man was asked to separate himself from nature, taking nature as a commodity. And their purpose was to take the advantage of the wilderness in the colonized countries for the benefit of themselves. For that, this is one of the reasons why the colonizers had given importance on their industrialization, taking natural resources from the colonized countries into their own country and making them industrially progressive. That was the notion of the colonizers. But when the process of, and the colonizers also tried to frame, the Britishers in particular, when they understood that nature being exploited by them is getting threatened, then they had some rules and regulations. They formed an ideology of conservation of nature, not only in their own industrialized countries, but also in their subject countries. So this, when colonialism is gradually fading away, this ideology of conservation of the forest and natural resources remained in our countries, in the colonized countries. And this process is still going to, still going on in these third world countries, in the colonized countries. Environmental issues has become so burning that now the environmental exegesis or the theorization of environmental issues, it has multifaceted implications. Like environment is now associated with feminism, so ecofeminism, the study of relationship of nature and woman's role and implication in nature, that has come. And the most burning thing is that now there is something which is of prominence, is environmental racism. How the even in the industrialized countries, there is a sense of a racism which is working in the developed countries like America, England, and other parts of the world. But our concern is that how, as colonized countries, we are gradually trying to decolonize ourselves from the concepts of nature which was incorporated into the minds of the colonized people. So in this conference, the way we began the conference by watering a sapling, the holy way we put that water into the sapling, it is also, and it also implies that how holily nature should be taken, and how after this decolonization, a new ideology or a new notion of nurturing of nature is to be taken care of by the indigenous ideology. So on this seminar day, we are to listen to very intellectual discussions by these eminent personalities who have graced the dais. We will also have some paper presentations by the research scholars and others. So we are eagerly waiting for the deliberation from our eminent scholars. With this, thank you, sir. Thank you all very much.
Sir, I extend my heartfelt gratitude for your inspiring speech and gracious welcome to our esteemed guests. It is now my honor to invite Professor Sambit Panigrahi, a distinguished professor from the Department of English at Ravenshaw University, Cuttack, Odisha, to deliver the keynote address.
So thank you very much, and a very warm good morning to all of you, esteemed professors, invited guests, and my dear students. It's really a privilege. And you be here. And it's really a privilege, and it's a very humbling experience on my part to be here. I have been here for the first time, but it's such a wonderful experience with some, to spend time with some wonderful people, and it's quite heartening to see that my students are here. Rajkumar is my student, and Orpita was my student long back, and a few more I can see. So it's really a very heartening experience to see my old students here. Anyway, since I have been told that the inauguration perhaps took a little more time, so we have to cut a little short our presentations. But in any way, I will straight away come to the topic: eco-criticism and ecofeminism, the emergence of green studies. The whole world is aware of the fact that the massive environmental degradation that is happening all around due to the advent of modernity and this techno-capitalism and all kinds of modern enterprises, they have led to the massive degradation of nature. But we would, in the context of our discussions, in the context of our seminar, we would like to see the root cause, the fundamental root causes that led to the colonization of nature first. So then only perhaps we can devise methodologies to decolonize nature and to make certain amendments if at possible. So eco-criticism, as there are multiple definitions of eco-criticism that are available, and I mean Lawrence Boyle, the famous critic, critic of environmental studies, he defines eco-criticism in very simplistic terms, like it's bridging the gap between literature and environment and things like that. But the fundamental premise on which eco-criticism grounds itself is that it critiques human ethnocentrism, human speciesism. Greg Gard, another critic, he would say that it's human speciesism. Our species occupies the central space of the universe. We occupy utmost importance. So in a self-assumed manner, we occupy utmost importance in the universal scheme of things. So these are the things that led to the development of an attitude that led towards the degradation of nature. Then teleological anthropocentrism, goal, or telos means goal, teleological anthropocentrism, that means goal-oriented, human-centered activities, right? We will use nature, we will abuse nature, we will, for our own material benefits, and for all kinds of, so nature becomes an instrument of our goal, our purposes, our, materialistic achievements. And it is, nature is constructed socially. Raymond Williams in particular would say that nature is a social construct, and we use nature as a social construct, and its ontological facticity, its automatic presence prior to the human existence is discounted by all of us, the human beings. Right? So these are all the processes that led to the devaluation and colonization of nature. And then I would just give one example. According to many eco-critics, the Western discursive formations predominantly, dominated by the Bible, Christianity, the Bible, and the great classics like Iliad and Odyssey, they have also their contributions towards the devaluation of nature. You just read Genesis, the very first opening chapters of the Bible. And what does God say? God creates man in his own image, and he empowers man to he says something like this fish, fowl, and all this world of fauna, flora and fauna is at your dispensation. You can use them. They're all for all your use. So these are the preliminary, things that have later on contributed towards the human exploitation of nature, which we are talking so much about today. And then later on with the progress. And if you have read Iliad, Odyssey, there will be critical junctures where every time they go for a war, they will sacrifice bulls, rams. they call it hecatomb, 100 bulls and rams or something, hecatomb. They will sacrifice animals. This animal sacrifice becomes a very important phenomenon every time they go to a war. So these are the practices that have ultimately led towards the devaluation of nature. Then comes enlightenment, the you know the phenomenal emergence of something called reason. By reason, and I mean human possesses reason, and by reason Descartes says, I think, therefore I am. So mind becomes supreme, body becomes inferior, a mere extension of the body, right? And Bacon, in his Advancement of Learning, he says that he urges man to encroach into the world of nature, to vanquish nature, and to bring it under command. He says something that extends, the quote is here, he tells, let me see if it goes to the hyperlink. No, it cannot. Okay. But if it was a laptop, then it could have gone. But anyway, he says that you extend the bounds of human empire. So these are the ones that led to the colonization of nature in multiple ways, in different divergent ways, isn't it? Then, let's come. Descartes' mind-body dualism I was just talking about. Mind is all important, body is an inert matter. Body is a mere extension of the mind, and it is equated with nature, right? Nature is equally unimportant, subservient and inert, lifeless body of nature. It doesn't have the qualities of mind. Then it's a deaf and dumb entity, and then emerges Newtonian. So how different philosophical, scientific ideas evolved at different points in time, they have contributed towards the devaluation of nature, and how they have facilitated man to colonize nature by giving different logics, right? Different logics which we were, the eco-critics would like to refute. And Timothy Ox, I was just talking about Newton. Newton said that this world, his atomistic cosmology, we can, dissect the world into minute, minute parts and portions and examines it, right? So that also was a threat to the organic unity of nature, because nature has its utmost importance as an organic unity. Like for instance, in Greek philosophy, they call it Gaia, Mother Earth, which is a giant superorganism, right? This Earth, and it's a self-regulatory superorganism, irrespective of human interventions. Humans are of utmost unimportance for them, right? So that organic worldview of nature is undermined by Newton kind of scientists. Descartes and Newton and all this enlightenment. Then Henrik Lefebvre, the famous space theorist, he said that nature is other space, the othering of nature, which is something alien from us, different from us. So this othering of space happened. So these are all leading towards the colonization of nature. Martin Heidegger would say it's a standing reserve. It's a standing reserve for our exclusive use, for the exclusive use of the humanity. It's an object, a standing reserve. Then came post-structuralism. It again gave its overemphasis on language. Derrida says that there is nothing outside text, everything is a construct in language. So where the material facticity of things around us, natural things, and what trees and all that, everything is language. Then I mean to counter, to provide a fitting counter, befitting counter to this kind of a claim by the post-structuralist. The Kate Soper, he has a book, What is Nature? Very famous book, What is Nature? He says that there is a hole in the ozone layer, not in language. If you emit more carbon dioxide, it will go and create holes in ozone layer, and ultraviolet rays will come and it will cause cancer on your skin, right? So the actual problem is so the hole is not in language, but so we have to look at the material world also, and the environment also, take care of that. Then I will talk about a little bit about ecofeminism. Again, it was, oh, I have forgotten this mic. but I hope I was audible to all of you. and, and we came to, we come to ecofeminism, which is a kind of an offshoot of eco-criticism. It was, coined in the 1970s by François de Eubon, French feminist, which says that derogation of nature by man is almost equivalent to derogation of women by men. So he is bringing this ecofeminist dimension, and because we are equating nature with man, and there are multiple ways. Like for instance, I have taken, I mean, this equation of nature with women is something which has led to, again, which has empowered men to exploit both women and nature, because they say that they are similar. But there are other strands of ecofeminism, like the one by Bandana Shiva, where nature is worshipped as a mother in our Hindu mythology and Hindu philosophy. But I am talking about the Western one. The Western one take it in this connection between women and nature, this kind of symbolic association. They take it in a negative way, so that it empowers to exploit the nature. And there are Val Plumwood in his in her famous book, Feminism and Mastery of Nature. That book, Plumwood is no more, but backgrounding and denial. That means women and nature are pushed to the background, and all important activities are man-centered, right? And radical exclusion or hyper-separation. There is no similarity between man and women / nature on the other side. We are so distant, so different. So these are the processes that have led to the distance, estrangement, distancing, and colonization of women and nature together, which the ecofeminists vehemently critique, and that becomes the vantage point, right? Then incorporation. They are under our control. They will be incorporated into our scheme of things, right? Instrumentalism. They are objects of our progress, instruments of our progress. And homogenization. All are equal. See, nature, women, indigenous communities, they have multiple internal diversities between themselves, right? That is derecognized by the dominant masculine world. They are all equal, right? So to derecognizing multiple internal differences between them is also a process through which they are categorized as one inferior other, right? So that has also led to colonization of nature and women. Then we have things like we have gendered the landscape, a very long practice. Then there is a famous ecofeminist critic, Eva Feder-Kittai. She has written a wonderful article, Women and as Metaphor. This is available in the net. I suggest those who are doing research on eco-criticism and ecofeminism and these areas, please search that article and read it. How women is used as a metaphor for nature. We conquer river. Then you, and also there is another book by Annette Kolodny, The Lay of the Land, where she talks about the early American explorers, moving inland into the interior landscape of America. That is described by their travelogues as a kind of a sexual conquest, right? A kind of a penetrative venture into a feminine, masculine penetrative venture into a feminine landscape, right? So these sexual imageries are used, and the entire landscape is perceived in a gendered way. There is a gendered perception of the landscape. That is also a kind of colonization that has led to, and I have given textual evidences from Conrad's, Joseph Conrad, because my area was Conrad, PhD, from outcast of islands, where there's a description that these colonial explorers filled with engineers, scientists and all that, they are, the sea was a place of pristine beauty. Its beauty was protected, but these people went through the vessels and tore its veil and ravished the sea, and forced it to unravel its beauty, unravel its inner reaches to them. So there is a sexual imagery of forced, I mean imagery of ravishment. So that practice is also a part of this colonial enterprise, this colonial, colonizing nature. So I hope I have some time, more time, Rajkumar. How many minutes? Then I'll go to decolonization. 15 minutes? Okay, fine. Now, let's talk about how we can decolonize nature, right? How the simple process. And I was talking to Uttam Bhai. He was our senior at Bani Vihar, Utkal University, and he presented a paper on decolonization at Bhadrak Autonomous College. I was there, and so I also gained some important points. He also helped me a lot regarding that. But then, okay, before coming to that, the most simple thing is that you unwind or undo all the processes that led towards the colonization of nature. You will reach at your decolonizing process, right? You will achieve decolonization of nature. First thing is you undo the mind-body dualism. Second thing is all binaries, man, woman, man, nature. You dismantle all binaries. Derrida talks about the dismantlement of all binaries. In that famous essay, Structure, Sign and Play in the Discourses of Human Sciences, which is prescribed in many of the postgraduate syllabi. And then one of the major ways through which we can decolonize nature is to introduce eco-critical and eco-feminist dialogics. The dialogical method okay. The dialogical method, which is taken from Mikhail Bakhtin. So Rajkumar, is my time getting over? Oh, I am getting a bit. Anyway, so Mikhail Bakhtin, who talks about, I'm sorry, Bakhtin talks about, there are essays called the dialogic imagination, where he says that a text is actually not a monologic kind of entity, where one particular voice has utmost importance or utmost authority. It's a conglomeration. It's a kind of a platform where multiple voices come and interact with each other, and the dialogue goes on. The dialogic tension goes on. That upholds the meaning of the text, and the dialogue transcends the text. That text makes the text eternal. Mahabharata was written only long back, but how many rewritings of Mahabharata in the form of fiction has happened? There is a dialogue that was started in Mahabharata. The dialogue still continues, right? The dialogue still continues in multiple ways. Recently I read Kavita Kane's book, The Wife of Karna, where Uruvi is Karna's wife, a very negligible character. In the original Mahabharata, she becomes the central character in Karna's wife. She becomes a dialogic voice. Likewise, make nature a dialogic voice. Make nature a dialogic voice, so that its voice is heard, its voice is, respected, so that this is one of the ways in which we will start the process of decolonizing nature and bringing into the mainstream thought, right? Nature becomes, as Lawrence Boyle would say, don't make nature a mere setting. It's a process. It's not a mere presence. It's a process. Nature becomes an important character in your fiction. So that way we can, bring in significant changes, right? And Patrick Murphy gives a circle, I cannot show it, circle where there is the centripetal force and centrifugal force. Centrifugal force is perhaps coming inside, centripetal is going outside. So they are in tension, right? So when nature's voice is heard and respected, then it gives a challenge to poses a challenge to the human voice, and they are in tension. Nature becomes one among the multiple dialogic voices in the text, in which human is one, man is one, woman is one, nature is one, even animals are there, right? That is one thing. Then another important way through which we can achieve decolonization of nature, there is a very abominable practice by the colonizers to displace indigenous communities. Look at Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Pankaj Seksaria, he has written exclusively on Andaman Nicobar Islands. One of my PhD scholars is working on that. He talks about the displacement of Jarawa tribes. Andaman is Jarawa tribes. So they are the indigenous people who had since long living in the lap of nature. They have their own, kind of assemblies with the natural world. They have their own culture that protects nature. They get all their products and nourishment from nature, right? But at the same time, they do it in a way that they protect nature. But now what is happening? They are constructing a grand trunk road through Andaman Nicobar Islands without proper planning. I mean, nobody is opposing your developmental agenda, but at the same time, it has to be meticulously structured, organized in a way that the indigenous culture, indigenous communities along with their indigenous culture, they are protected, nature is protected, and then you do your developmental project. But they are doing it in a very unplanned manner, in a way that indigenous communities are displaced. There is spatial displacement, cultural displacement, leading to absolute dehumanization of nature, indigenous communities and all that. Stop that. Government should come up with much more meticulously organized plans for their developmental agenda without hampering the natural ecosystem of the place and the people, indigenous people living there. That is another step to decolonization, right? And Uttam Bhai was that day telling that life and times of Michael K, right? Michael K is displaced from his original landscape, original land, and is given a land somewhere else, right? So that is also, one should stop doing that. He should be given a land in his original place. Why should you displace him and give him another land in another space? So that will, so give him his original land. That is also a decolonization. Paul Plumwood talks about renaming of places. When the colonial people came, particularly in the Caribbean islands, even in our place also, they changed names indiscriminately. They gave names to different, we have our original place. I come from a village called Langaleswar in Baleswar. I am from Baleswar, Langaleswar. There is a local legend there that Shiva, Lord Shiva, did plow there. Langala is plow, Ishwara is, they are referring to Shiva. So the place. Now if you change that, some colonizer people come and they change that place's name, then that also contributes to colonization of nature. So many such places, names have been changed. Names have been changed, right? So that has to be restored according to Bhalplum. Rename places with their indigenous ethos, in the indigenous cultural implications, religio-mythological cultural implications, then you will decolonize nature, right? Bhalplum talks about that, and I'm just forgetting. Yes, there's a poem called Names by Derek Walcott. Is it in your course? So there Derek Walcott talks about how the colonizers came and renamed places, right, in Caribbean islands, and what kind of disaster it has led to. The original people have lost their accent, lost their cultural ethos and all that. So rename those places with their indigenous ethos and indigenous implications intact. That will be another process towards decolonization. I'll stop here. Thank you so much, and it has really been a pleasure to interact with this beautiful audience. And Rajkumar, if is there a scope for answering some questions if there are, or fine, later. Okay. So thank you very much. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. The moment has arrived for the commencement of our lecture sessions. With utmost humility, I invite Professor Shabmit Panigrahi, a distinguished professor, Department of English, Ravenshaw University, Cuttack, Odisha, to take the stage and chair our first lecture session of Professor Indranil Acharya.
It's again my privilege to welcome and introduce Professor Indranil Acharya, whom I met a few years back at Ravenshaw University. He was invited for a talk as an invited guest, and so to introduce Professor Acharya is really an honor for me. Professor Indranil Acharya is a professor of the Department of English, Vidyasagar University, West Bengal. Some of his major publications are Beyond the Sense of Belonging, Race, Class and Gender in the Poetry of Yeats and Eliot, Survival and Other Stories, Anthology in Bangla Dalit Stories, Many Colored Glass, Towards Social Change, Essays on Dalit Literature, Listen to Flame's Texts and Readings from the Margins, Paschim Bangar Bhasha, and the list goes on. And I think he was already introduced. All his academic achievements were already introduced, but some of the important ones that he had presented papers in international conferences hosted by Lancaster University and Bridgewater University, Virginia University. In 2023, Professor Acharya was nominated as a member of the jury for the selection of Sahitya Academy Yuva Puraskar. So, with immense happiness and enthusiasm, I invite Professor Acharya to come and deliver his talk.
Thank you, Professor Patro, for your very generous introduction. I'd like to thank also my colleague here, Professor Joyjit Ghosh, the present head of the Department of English, Vidyasagar University, and also my friends here, Oshijit and others, and all the distinguished members here in the Department of English, and the students, scholars, participants from other colleges and universities, and of course the organizers of this seminar, the director, the principal, and other members of the academic administration of this college. We have actually begun this process way back in 2022 when we developed an academic collaboration with the University of East Anglia, United Kingdom, and we have already conducted joint teaching sessions and also student seminars in the online mode on decolonizing the curriculum. And this decolonizing nature is part of decolonizing the curriculum, and we have already made significant steps in decolonizing the curriculum through indigenizing the curriculum, and we have made it compulsory in the first semester, the course ENG 105, where all our students are now going to the fields for the documentation, translation, analysis and digitization of the folk texts, oral, written, visual texts, and everything of various indigenous communities. So the process has begun in a big way, and I think that by this time almost 1,000 students have already participated. Okay, Vidyasagar University Department of English and all the postgraduate departments affiliated to Vidyasagar University. So the revolution has begun at Vidyasagar University, and we are very happy that Midnapore City College also contributes to this process by organizing this one-day academic seminar to look at various aspects of decolonizing nature, which ultimately becomes a part of the objective of decolonizing the curriculum. So let me read out a few excerpts from my paper today. It's titled Eco-Consciousness and Indigeneity, a study of select tribal communities in eastern India. So the current era is characterized by the Anthropocene. Anthropocentrism has already unleashed and continues to unleash irrevocable damages to the ecosystem. The domination of the Anthropocene against the Symbiocene could be conceptualized in the framework of ecocide. Ecocide, in simple definition, is the destruction of the ecosystem by different agents. The consequences of this allanthropocentric activities, in contrast to the victimization of the environment, now reciprocate and posit a menace to mankind in the form of several ecological threats, namely climate change and global warming. Particularly in the third world countries, we have received the negative impacts of global warming and climate change. Despite the constant initiatives from environmentalists and social activists, the exploitation intensifies far and wide. The situation postulates an immediate threat of existence to the global indigenous populations. Indigenous populations in several countries are being haunted by the adverse consequences of ecocide. In fact, if we look at the Australian Aboriginal situation, we will find that many of the Aboriginal communities have already been brutally dislocated from their original homelands, and they have lost their languages, their culture, their cultural practices, and it's actually a state of cultural amnesia in which most of the Aboriginal communities are forced to live in the Australian situation as a result of the white Australia policy of assimilation. Human beings act supreme in the context of ecosystem, where the existence of any other entity is often ignored or overlooked. An ecosystem is the most basic unit of ecological analysis, which includes all the varieties and populations of living things that are interdependent in a given environment. Ecocide, as stated by Polly Higgins, I quote Polly Higgins, is the extensive damage, destruction to, or loss of ecosystems of a given territory, whether by human agency or by other causes, to such an extent that peaceful enjoyment by the inhabitants of that territory has been severely diminished. In fact, if we read many of the folk songs of various indigenous communities, we would find that sense of pain and suffering. We find a definite note of elegiac lamentation that they are being forced to leave their homeland. If you read the very famous anthology by Ujjeru Nanikal, Kath Walker, We Are Going, you would find that sense of inevitable doom and disaster, the pain of impending disaster, both ecological and human. So there is a kind of systemic violence which we find in this ecocide. Ecocide, which means killing earth, composes of two words, eco, oikos in Greek, meaning home, and side, seder in Greek, meaning killing. First made its appearance at the Conference on War and National Responsibility in Washington in February 1970. Introduced by Arthur Galston, a notable bioethicist, the coinage of the term ecocide was the response towards the use of Agent Orange herbicide by the United States in the Vietnam War from 1961 to 1971. Galston explained ecocide in the conference after the end of World War II, and as a result of the Nuremberg trials, we justly condemned the willful destruction of an entire people and its culture, calling this crime against humanity genocide. It seems to me that the willful and permanent destruction of the environment in which the people can live in a manner of their own choosing ought similarly to be considered as a crime against humanity, to be designated by the term ecocide. So we have found it in various contexts, in various ways, as an inevitable result of the developmental ethic, particularly in the third world context, and particularly in the context of the Indian subcontinent. And that has also been happening here over the last few decades, especially with the advent of the 21st century. We have found this, and now I would like to switch over to the basic focus of our research that we have been doing here in our university, that is Eastern India. In eastern India, we find which is a home to a diverse array of indigenous tribes, each with unique cultural, social and ecological practices deeply rooted in their traditions. The concept of eco-consciousness within eastern Indian tribes extends beyond mere environmental awareness. It encompasses a holistic worldview that recognizes the interconnectedness of all living beings and the environment. This perspective is ingrained in their cultural practices, spiritual beliefs, and customary norms, fostering a profound respect for nature and a commitment to its preservation. And first of all, I would like to talk about the Santal tribe, because I am sure that there may be a few students also from the Santal tribe here, and we have visited many Santal villages, and ecosystems in course of our field work. In our university, we also have a Santali department. Okay, so Santali being included in the 8th schedule of the Indian Constitution is already an official language, and we find that the Santal tribe, predominantly found in the states of Jharkhand, West Bengal and Odisha, exemplifies a deep reverence for nature in their way of life. They practice sustainable agricultural techniques such as shifting cultivation and agroforestry, which ensure minimal ecological impact while meeting their subsistence needs. Additionally, their cultural festivals such as Sorai and Mage celebrate the harvest season and underscore the importance of harmony with the environment. In fact, you would find it in many of the Santal folk tales as well, documented by Reverend P.O. Bording, and you would also find it in many Santali folk songs, okay, where we find that harmony with environment and how the festivals are in complete sync with the environment, the ecosystem. The Oraon tribe, we know their language is Kuduk. Okay, and Oraon people are mostly found, in Jharkhand. Okay, some of them are also in West Bengal, in Bihar, particularly in North Bengal, tea estates. Okay, there is a sizable population of the Oraon tribe. Okay, they have a profound connection to their ancestral lands and natural resources. They practice traditional methods of water conservation, including constructing small dams and embankments to harness rainwater for irrigation purposes. Moreover, their knowledge of medicinal plants and herbal remedies not only sustains their healthcare practices, but also underscores their reliance on nature's bounty without causing harm to the ecosystem. In fact, the entire idea of sacred grove, the preservation of the rare medicinal plants, okay, is quite unique to the indigenous cultural practice and indigenous knowledge system, and which is also a significant way of decolonizing the notion of nature in terms of indigenous worldview. The Munda tribe, primarily residing in Jharkhand and parts of West Bengal and Odisha, have developed intricate systems of forest governance that prioritize sustainable resource management and biodiversity conservation. Their customary laws, known as Sarjam, regulate access to forest resources, restrict hunting practices, and promote communal ownership of land, ensuring the preservation of ecological balance for future generations. In fact, we know the non-violent means of Birsa Munda, okay, the way he embraced Vaishnavism, and how there was a close connection between respecting nature, respecting animals, non-humans, and also respecting, okay, the entire ecosystem. Okay, so non-violence also became a part of the Munda cultural ethos, the Munda belief system, which we have seen in the life of Birsa Munda. So Eastern Indian tribes possess a wealth of indigenous knowledge passed down through generations, encompassing ecological wisdom, traditional ecological knowledge, and adaptive strategies honed over centuries of living in harmony with nature. This knowledge informs their decision-making processes, resource management practices, and resilience in the face of environmental challenges such as climate change and deforestation. So in this way, we find that there are many anthropological studies on tribals which give account of the tradition of sacred groves in Chhattisgarh, the state carved out from Madhya Pradesh. Okay, villages in Bastar have three kinds of sacred groups, namely Mata Gudi, Dev Gudi, and Gaon Devi. Different tribes have their own Mata or Gaon Devi or goddess in Dev Gudi. The Chotanagpur part of the state shows the predominance of Sarana or Jahera kind of sacred groups plotted all over the state. The Saranas are of different types such as Sarhul Sarana, Mahadani Sarana, etc. Generally, the area occupied by the Sarana is less than an acre, but the Sarana is a very crucial, sacrosanct notion in the Adivasi worldview, as we find in the case of the Australian Aborigines. Dream time is a very important concept. Space like Bora ring is a very sacrosanct concept, okay, and which is in a way synonymous with indigenous core identity. So we find that the tradition which is maintained by various communities is also in sync with nature, and is also a perennial practice which can be regarded as part of the decolonizing strategy which we are talking about in our modern day discourse. The eco-consciousness exhibited by Eastern Indian tribes reflects a profound understanding of humanity's interconnectedness with the natural world. Through their sustainable practices, indigenous knowledge systems, and cultural traditions, these tribes offer valuable insights into alternative modes of coexistence that prioritize environmental conservation and promote a harmonious relationship between humans and nature. So recognizing and respecting their ethos can serve as a blueprint for fostering sustainability and resilience in an increasingly fragile global ecosystem. So we have found that there are many indigenous communities, okay, which have been practicing certain environment friendly things since time immemorial, and particularly during our field survey we have been able to find out many denotified and nomadic tribes. Okay, for example, in West Bengal we have tribes like Lodhas, we have tribes like Birhods. Okay, so we have tribes like Khadiyas, particularly Khadiya and Lodha are denotified and nomadic tribe. And if we look at the history of the Lodhas, okay, we have recently brought out the English translation of a seminal, okay, ethnographic work by a great Lodha Sabar scholar, Prahlad Kumar Bhakta, Lodha Shabor Jatir Samaj Jivan. Okay, the indigenous worldview of the Lodha Sabar people. Okay, if you read the book, okay, it has been published by Vidyasagar University Publication Division. Okay, if you read the book, you will find how the Lodhas were branded as criminal tribes way back in 1871 by the British government, primarily because of their commitment to the preservation of nature and natural resources. Okay, how the Lodhas became a stumbling block, a great obstacle for the British forest policy. The way they wanted to invade the forest and the way they wanted to commercialize the forest resources, okay, was vehemently opposed by the Lodhas. As a result of that, they were branded as criminal tribes. Similar things happened in the western part of India, in many states of India, in Rajasthan, in Gujarat, in Madhya Pradesh. Okay, you would find that there were many artists, indigenous artists who used to produce copper coins, craft copper coins, okay, and they were branded as counterfeiters and they were made criminal tribes. So this criminalization was also a part of systemic colonization of nature. So from that point of view, decriminalizing these tribes is also a way of decolonizing nature. Okay. Unfortunately, this decriminalization has been successfully done in the form of legal enactments, but we still happen to see the continuance of the social stigma, okay, which these erstwhile criminal tribes has to carry forward, has to bear, okay, as a legacy which is quite deplorable and also self-humiliating. Okay, so it's time, we look at these tribal communities, their languages, their culture, their worldview, okay, from a sense of respect, out of a sense of honor. Okay, because if we are unable to give respect to our own people, okay, how do we expect to decolonize the curriculum? So it's very important to give due respect to these people so that we can have a significant step forward towards the construction of a mindset that will be convenient to the development of an inclusive syllabus, where decolonizing the the concepts related to nature and also related to the world view of these indigenous communities could be successfully accommodated and implemented. Thank you for your patience. Thank you.
If you have any questions, you can ask, sir. Anybody has a question? Or you are afraid of asking questions? Students, he will ask a question.
Sir, how do eco-criticism and ecofeminism contribute to the dismantling of colonial ideologies that have shaped the human so far?
Okay, but see, some of the deconstructive strategies that we saw, like for instance, you give them dialogic voices, you render dialogic voices to nature and animals even, and make them important, parts of your fictional output. For example, you write a novel, then the trees, the animals, they become important characters. They are no more relegated to marginality, but they are very much interactive in the main plot. So these are the strategies that you can, so you give them dialogic voices, first thing. Second thing is that we were all discussing about preserving the indigenous culture with its indigenous communities, with their indigenous cultural ethos, and preventing displacement, forced displacement. So these are all decolonizing strategies. Let them be rooted in their place, let them be rooted in their culture, let them practice their role indigenous practices, which actually lead to the preservation of nature, right? So these are the decolonizing strategies. And the government agencies have to take predominant role in that, so that they stop the destruction of their culture, right? As Sir was telling, that their language, their cultural practices, they must be brought to the fore and they must be preserved. So these are the decolonizing strategies that eco-criticism as well as ecofeminism, they are all together striving at implementing these kinds of strategies. Then we can achieve true decolonization of nature, right?
No, actually, they are denotified and criminal tribes. Okay, so they should be more aligned to the Adivasis instead of the Dalits. Okay, so when you talk about Dalits, you have to discuss the importance of caste. Okay, but when you talk about Lodhas and Khadiyas, okay, you have to look at them from the perspective of the Adivasi worldview, because they had been the indigenous people of this part of the world. Okay, so caste is something which does not exist in a way, which is not visible in their social pattern. Okay, so it's more of an egalitarian society. Okay, but they suffer as a result of that branding. Okay, so there is always that sense of stigma. That is important. You know, Dakshin Bajrangi was a famous, film producer. He belonged to the Chara community, okay, an erstwhile, criminal tribe of Gujarat, Ahmedabad. Okay, so Dakshin confesses that I may be, an internationally reputed, filmmaker, but in the eyes of a mere constable, okay, Dakshin is no more than a thief. Okay, he is the son of a thief, grandson of a thief. That is the way a police constable looks at, okay, a very successful member of the denotified and nomadic tribes. It's a pity. So we have to respect them first, and then we can think of including their culture, their literature into our curriculum. Okay, thank you.
Even sir, right from our childhood days, we used to hear that Lodhas are looters, colorers, killers. This is a wrong notion.
Sir, I have a question. You just said that we need to protect or preserve indigenous identities, indigenous culture in order to decolonize our nature. But on the other hand, we also have to develop. That is also a part of decolonization. Can these two things go hand in hand?
Why not? Because this development should be in the sense of, integration, not in the sense of assimilation.
Yes, sir, but I recently actually studied something about denotified tribes or criminal tribes. I was just studying about them the last week, and we have seen that there are numerous instances where they have directly opposed the development. We have such instances. So in order to, can these two things be contrasted in order to protecting nature and also developing?
No,
Sometimes
there is a problem of awareness. And
Yes,
that
sir.
is not their fault.
Yes,
That
sir,
is the fault of the
that is true.
system.
Yes, sir.
Because Dr. Ambedkar said that you have to first, educate.
Yes, sir.
And unless they receive education, they cannot feel the need for development. But development, once again, with one important epithet, sustainable. Sustainable development.
Yes, sir.
So we are talking a lot about sustainability.
Yes.
But are we really promoting the concept of sustainability? Okay, especially in the metropolitan spaces. Okay, so what happens that we have become very aggressively developmental. That is the problem. And they are, from that perspective, they are very meek, and passive and weak recipient of our excesses of development. So somewhere we need to realize.
Okay, sir.
Okay,
Sir, I have another question. You
Yes.
just said that we need to preserve things,
Yes.
and again, while answering him, you said that we need to include them.
Yes.
Can inclusion and preserving something or including something, can these two things be done together? We preserve something that is exclusive to us.
No, no. We
Sir,
preserve to include because we preserve to represent, because
Okay,
they are
sir.
unrepresented. Okay,
Okay,
so
sir.
here preservation means not merely documenting their performances or their culture, in audio-visual form. No, not
sir.
like that. It's also translation. Translation is a very important aspect, and also analysis. Analysis is important because when you translate, you represent them, and when you represent them, they are included.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
I'll just add one small supplement here to Sir's response that you cut 100 trees to build a road, plant 100 trees, okay. So that is the solution. You said that the developmental project is hampering natural ecosystem, right? So if you are cutting 100 trees, so plant 100 trees, then the balance, maintain the balance, right? But you cannot stop developmental projects because we need to develop as well with time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your paper, amazing paper. Just two small technical questions. One is about the translation of these things. How much of the translations, how many translations are really reaching the, let's say the publisher, right, who matter? Because if it reaches the publishers who matter, it often reaches people who, again, matter, let's say. So that is one question. Other question is, other one, within these tribes, are there also this desire to
Yes, very good questions. In fact, they have become quite visible in terms of publication by the big publishing houses in the recent times. For example, the two volumes we have brought out. Okay, one is Paschim Banger Bhasha, which includes chapters on all the these indigenous language communities of Bengal, and also in adjacent states of Jharkhand and Odisha. Okay, so there we find Orient Black Swan has published both the volumes, and the volumes have already reached the corridors of power. Okay, and what is happening, that it has also reached the global, readership, and that's why these books are now being recommended, okay, as supplementary reading in some of the leading universities, okay, in India and also outside India. I can tell you that in the University of Delhi, okay, Languages of West Bengal is recommended, okay, as a supplementary text. Okay, and it's also accepted by many linguistics departments. Okay, this is number one. And number two, yes, they are now being represented, because we published Paschim Banger Bhasha in 2017, and immediately after that we saw that the government of West Bengal, okay, taking some very meaningful steps with the establishment of certain academy. For example, Kurmali Academy, it has been established in Purulia is the headquarters. We also find the Lodha, okay, Unnayan Parshad, Lodha, which includes both Lodha and Khadiya. Okay, there is also Rajbongshi Academy and Kamtapuri Academy, for the revival of Rajbongshi and Kamtapuri language and culture. Okay, and the Kuduk Academy is also coming up. Okay, that is coming up. So, and Sadri, okay, Sadri is also claiming the status. Okay, and they are also claiming for an academy. So it means that the government has also been responsive, to the demands of these people for inclusion, and perhaps these researches and publications are in a way contributing to this, initiatives.
So within these tribes, are there this kind of desire that I need to shift to the mainland because I'm not represented enough?
I need to shift. That is quite apparent, because if we talk about the Santhal tribe, we have the lady in the highest position, the Honorable President of India. Okay, and we also have in Jharkhand, many people from Munda community who have become chief ministers. Okay, so it's happening, so they are in the mainstream. Even in West Bengal, we find that there are many, tribal leaders, okay, from different tribal groups, okay, who have been made either MPs or MLAs or ministers. So it's happening, particularly in the 21st century. They have become, increasingly visible in the public sphere as well. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
That will happen, because even the so-called majoritarian language, state language, Bengali, is also in danger. Okay, especially in the metropolitan space in Kolkata. Okay, so there was a survey conducted by Anandobajar Putrika. Bangla bhasha ki shotti bipanno. Okay, there is a poem by the poet Apurbo Dotto. Okay, the last line is brutally ironic. School kano Bengali ta poday na English. Okay, so this is brutally ironic. Every language is in stake. I think we are gradually moving into the zone of silence. Yes, of course. Exactly. When we destroy nature, we are actually destroying the knowledge system. And when we destroy the knowledge system, we are actually destroying the culture and language. Okay, so the vocabulary is related to nature and their day-to-day life. So if it is destroyed, then their language will also be lost, as it happened in the case of the Bo language of Andaman. Okay, the last speaker, Boa, okay, she died. Okay, she was a spinster. So she died in 2010, and along with her, the language perished. Okay, so it happened. It will happen. Ah.
Like India, we are creating two types of nature,
Hmm.
bourgeois nature and proletariat.
Exactly. Bourgeois nature and proletarian nature. And I think we are also creating a third space where there is, suicidal nature.
We are putting all these indigenous people in
Yes,
the space.
third space, that is ecocidal nature. Ecocidal nature, where they are simply non-existent and invisible. It will vanish. Ah.
Their culture will vanish.
And that will,
Nowadays,
Ah.
my locality, my area, after I belong to homeology, after 30 kilometers, there are Lodhas were there.
yes,
But nowadays, hardly you find any Lodha people who is there inside the forest.
exactly,
They have
exactly.
gradually started moving away. So their culture is also dying.
Culture is dying, and in many cases, it is shifting as well. For example, Sanskrit is a dead language in India. Okay, but in Germany, the demand for Sanskrit is so huge that they cannot even accept scholars in the universities. There is such a huge demand in Germany. Okay, so there is a shifting. Who knows that these languages might get greater recognition in Europe and America in the future through research and documentation. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, oh. अच्छा, so, oh, अच्छा, sir will say, okay, ठीक है, ठीक है.
Gratitude, sir, for the illuminating inaugural session. As we transition to our second lecture, may I respectfully invite Professor Indranil Acharya, Department of English, Vidyasagar University, to take the stage as the chairperson for our second lecture session of Professor Joyjit Ghosh.
While the PPT gets ready for presentation, let me introduce Professor Joyjit Ghosh, my esteemed colleague, Professor and Head of the Department of English, Vidyasagar University, Midnapore, West Bengal. He was the Deputy Coordinator of the UGC DRS SAP project on the translation, documentation, and digitization of Adivasi and folk literature and culture of West Bengal during 2015 to 2020. He has a fair number of publications to his credit. His published works include articles, book chapters on D.H. Lawrence, Rabindranath Tagore, and Mahashweta Devi, among other great minds. His book, Imaging D.H. Lawrence, His Mind and Art in Letters, Authors Press, New Delhi, 2012, has been widely acclaimed by Lawrence scholars. His research interests include Indian writing in English, Bangla Dalit literature, environmental studies, animal studies, diasporic literature, and translation studies. The Bleeding Border, Stories of Bengal Partition, Niyogi Books, New Delhi, 2022, co-edited with Mir Ahmad Ali, is one of his recent publications. Eco-Disaster Imaginaries in India, Essays in Critical Perspectives, co-edited with Scott Slovic and Shomit Kumar Maiti, Lexington Books, Lanham, is in press. 9 PhD scholars have already been awarded under his supervision. So, I now request my colleague, Professor Ghosh, to give his talk.
Thank you, Indranil, Professor Indranil Acharya, my colleague, and the former head of the Department of English, Vidyasagar University. First of all, let me extend my sense of gratitude to the authority of Midnapore City College, the Department of English, particularly Rajkumar, for inviting me to give my presentation in this national seminar entitled Decolonization or Decolonizing Nature, Literary context, but would have been happy if literary text also could be added to the title, because we were discussing among ourselves. Without text, there is no, I mean, the context, there is no text, or there's an interface between text and context. That's the point. I would be going back to the tone set by Professor Panigrahi, because he has already given a presentation which almost sounds like a keynote address, and I would be focusing on certain points pertaining to the broader field of ecofeminism, with particular reference to some select poems of David Herbert Lawrence, my eternal favorite. So I have chosen this title, Every Fruit Has Its Secret, because my presentation would be deeply textual, and of course I would be offering theoretical perspectives which are ecofeminist. কোন দিকে অন করতে হবে? This is আচ্ছা না স্যার আপনি আবার ওকে this way না okay thank you sir. So the title actually contains a few words from a certain poem by Lawrence. I'll be talking about that. First of all, I would be throwing light upon certain theoretical points pertaining to ecofeminism. As we all know that it is not only a theoretical position but also an activism, a movement. And Professor Panigrahi already has talked about the position assumed by Val Plumwood, where we talk about the master subject, the master story. And of course, it goes back to Plato. And then we come down to Rosemary Radford Ruether, who also throws light on the twin domination of women and nature. And of course, two levels of understanding that we have to take into account. Number one, the cultural symbolic level, the socioeconomic level. And certain points I have tried to highlight here, where we find that women have been identified with body, with earth, with sexuality, with flesh in its mortality, its presumed weakness, sin proneness, vis-a-vis construction of masculinity, identified with spirit, mind, sovereign power, etc., etc. And often, consciously or unconsciously, we use the expressions like virgin area. When a scholar comes, okay, it's a virgin area, you can explore this field. But the ecofeminists, of course, would be throwing light upon it, that are you consciously using this expression, virgin, timber, fertile, soil? So they're not innocent terms really. So that is why I would be concentrating on a poem, not often included in our syllabus, but a very important poem, that is Nutting by Wordsworth. And Professor Panigrahi was talking about Kate Soper's What is Nature. Kate Soper has given a very thought-provoking analysis of this poem. And later on, of course, I also got a reference to it in M.H. Abrams's literary terms book here. So this nutting poem, apparently so innocent, it's not. Because the ravage of nature and the ravage of woman, they run parallel with each other. So I don't have the text here, the full text I mean, but I'd be requesting the students and of course the budding scholars to have a look at the poem when they go back home. You can easily Google the poem. I just quoted some few lines here. Among the woods and over the pathless rocks I forced my way, until at length I came to one dear nook unvisited, where not a broken bough drooped with its withered leaves, ungracious sign of devastation, but the hazels rose tall, erect, with milk-white clusters hung, a virgin scene. So this is the phrase, the crucially loaded phrase to which I would like to draw your close and sensitive attention. Okay, because this is exactly where we can offer a sort of deconstructive analysis. Okay, so it's not a very innocent phrasing. Okay. Now, the other side of the story is that the woman is sometimes imaged as nature in literature. And for very many years, I was reading with my students Measure for Measure, and there is a section that is Act 1, Scene 4, where the pregnant Juliet, you know, how Shakespeare describes this woman as blossoming time, that from the sweetness the bare fallow brings to teeming foison, even so a plenteous womb expresseth his full tilth and husbandry. The idea is that all the students, I believe, present here have read Keats's To Autumn, and again, it is not that innocent. That is, nature, of course, swells the gourd and makes the hazel shells plump. So, mind you, here again, you might remember the marriage blessing in The Tempest. So again, the foison question. Foison is, you know, the plenty in harvest. Okay. And ecofeminists, of course, dig deep into this issue and ascertain that a woman's role in procreation is very important here. And I have quoted a statement from Simone de Beauvoir, very significant at this juncture. Woman, very simple. See the fanciers of simple formula. She's a womb, an ovary. She's a female. This word is sufficient to define her. So this loaded statement, okay, almost inescapable. And then, on the other hand, I mean, well, while we talk about the socio-economic kind of underpinnings, okay, and there, of course, Hardy's test of the D.R. Wills is a very important text. And you might remember, that is where Tess, along with other female companions, Reti, Marian, okay, they are reduced to agricultural laborers and they become proletariats. Okay, and they become simply machines in the production process. So you see that it is not always, ecofeminism is not always, you know, cultural. Sarah was talking about women as metaphors, very significant, sir, I have noted your point. But it is also socio-economic, and we can never forget Marx's anxiety of the female labor. Okay, he made an outcry. Anyway, other point is that is also animal question. So woman is identified with animal even, and this is also a very important perspective. I mean, while we talk about ecofeminism as a broader discipline, theoretical discipline. And so this is the colonization of women's bodies and women's work. Okay, so this, but I have not yet entered, I've just tried to set theoretical framework. Now, Lawrence. Lawrence was mightily inspired by John Burnet. His book is Early Greek Philosophy. And this quotation is available if you read the collected poems of Lawrence Penguin, you will find this quotation. For fruits are all of them female. In them lies a seed, and so when they break and show the seed, then we look into the womb and see its secrets. So we all remember Simone de Beauvoir's words. So that is, the pomegranate is the apple of love to the Arab. The fig has been a catchword for the female fisher for ages. I don't care a fig for it, so generally we use, no, but it's not that innocent. Men say, but why a fig? The apple of Eden, even as was Eve's fruit, to her it belonged, and she offered it to the man. So this is a quotation from Burnet. Now, the poems. So I have taken some poems like peach, pomegranate, and sob apples, etc., but I have not taken into consideration grapes because it does not fit the scheme of things here. And famous Lawrence critic Richard Aldington, you know, he tells us that Lawrence delighted in this work, okay, and he was influenced by it considerably. Yeah, we wholly agree with Professor Aldington. I'm thinking, of course, of the peach before I ate it. Now the poem starts. Why so velvety? Why so voluptuous heavy? Why hanging with such inordinate weight? Why so indented? Why the groove? Why the lovely bivalve roundnesses? Why the ripple down the sphere? Why the suggestion of incision? Why was not my pitch round and finished like a billiard ball? And then Lawrence says, it would have been if man had made it. So Mother Nature, if man is made in the image of God, so the woman is made in the image of nature. The description obviously, I've just analyzed, voluptuous, inordinate, and the nouns are groove, ripple, they're all loaded, crucially loaded. And of course, it emphasizes some woman's role in the gratification of physiological needs. And Salgado, the Lawrence critic, he observed that Lawrence does not import an abstract symbolism into something already there. He sees things as themselves and as symbols. In the later, Lawrence wrote that all literature is enfant, basically symbolic. Okay, all literature is symbol. But here, he sees things as themselves and as symbols. And this is very important of perhaps all the fruits poems of Lawrence. Okay, that is, this fruit is not smooth or finished like a billiard ball. It is capable of an incision. Then figs. Fig is a very secretive fruit, which I have of course used in my title. As you see it standing, growing, you feel it at once symbolic. And it's a smell. But when you come to know it's better, you agree with the romance, it is female. So this is the dialogic voice. You're talking about the male perspective, the female perspective. The romance, obviously, yeah, but you talk about romance and the female. Italians vulgarly say it stands for the female part, the fig fruit, the fish or the wonderful moist conductivity towards the center. So all, very gendered language that you find here. So this is, so fig obviously symbol of the female mystery, because we talk about, the center, but very interestingly, the very unequivocal expression on the part of Lawrence, that is, the female should be what? Always secret. Why secret? So again, I'm reminded of Beauvoir's words, the term female is derogatory. Not because it emphasizes women's animality, but because it imprisons her in her sex. So imprison is again a deeply loaded term. Okay. And because the terms you see, secretive fruit, inward, covered, they're all speaking volumes about the imprisonment. Okay. And finally, that is when the secret is out, like a prostitute, the Boston fig making a show of the secret, that's how women die too. So this very, very palpable kind of parallel between women and nature, it of course would arrest your attention. And mind you, how I have tried to analyze, that is how language can feminize nature, naturalize as well as inferiorize women. All very significant in my humble submission. But another point to which I would also like to draw your attention is, that is, when we talk about this representation of fruit, and of course the woman and nature connection, Tom Marshall, a very important book, Indranil knows, The Psychic Mariner, he also makes a very important statement at this point. He says, the modern woman still has her sex on her mind. She does not accept it as a natural, instinctive part of her life, but seeks to control and manipulate it with her intelligence. Her sex is mentally induced and stimulated. So this is made by Professor Marshall, and he also a poet. I tried to just, instill some insight here, taking a cue from Lawrence's great novel, Women in Love, where Hermione Rodis is portrayed as that type of woman, where she wants to just know and know, when knowing is so great and wonderful. And there is a chapter I've referred to, Biddleby, where we find that Rupert Birkin goes beyond the understanding of Hermione Rodis. And Lawrence also makes a very important statement, only her indomitable will remains static and mechanical. So all these terms are very significant here, mechanical and static. Then pomegranate. pomegranate is also capable, yeah, of this type of analysis, ecofeminist, but that type of gender sex question is not very much, articulate here. But Lawrence makes this very opening statement. You tell me I'm wrong. Who are you? Who is anybody to tell me I'm wrong? I'm not wrong. So again, the question is that, do you mean to tell me you will see no fissure? Do you prefer to look on the plain side? But then, of course, he is giving us a kind of panoramic discourse. He is thinking of setting suns. For all that, the setting suns are open, the end cracks open in the beginning, rosy, tender, glittering within the fissure. So this is not all gender, of course, here. And the compact drops of dawn. Okay. And I believe that is where Coleridge says about the synthetic imagination, that if you have that synthetic imagination, only then, of course, you can see the setting suns in the pomegranate. And he thinks of the lovely dawn kaleidoscopic within the crack. This is the crack in his heart. Okay, so this is, of course, miraculous, because Lawrence in his own way possessed the negative capability so that he could penetrate the mystery of a fruit. So this is, I believe, that where he goes beyond the formula of John Burnet. And these days, while we talk about the critical plant studies, CPS, while we talk about the plant imagination, so here I believe Lawrence becomes one with the fruit. So this is a material becoming, a becoming which has a deep inner source. Well, so this is. Then medlars and sorb apples, another poem. I love you, rotten, delicious rottenness. I love to suck you out from your skin, so brown and soft and coming suave, so morbid, as the Italians say. So you see, mark the use of language, please, the sense of violence that it embeds. So, and of course, the symbolic cultural connections between women and nature. Again, the body, the sexuality, and mind you, again, Rosemary Ruther, the sense of rottenness. And of course, the patriarchal hegemony of Italy, as inferred by Professor Terry Gifford. So this is the language of gendered violence, which is absolutely unmistakable at this point. And again, what a rare, powerful reminiscent flavor comes out of her falling through the stages of decay, stream within stream. Something of the same flavor as Sarascan muscat wine or vulgar marsala. And then, of course, Lawrence engages in the Orphic myth. Okay, so there are references. But again, towards the close of the text, again you will find the representation of pleasure principle. That is unmistakable. Okay, how you suck the juice out of the fruit. Medlars, sorb apples, more than sweet, flocks of autumn sucked out of her empty bladders and sipped down, perhaps with a sip of marsala, so that the rambling sky-dropped grape can add to its music to you. That is, we talk of Junja, that pleasure principle. So, sucked out, sipped down, everything is unmistakably significant at this point. But I have hurriedly come to the conclusion of my paper, and I quoted a couple of lines from Mystic. If I eat an apple, I like to eat it with all my senses awake. Hogging it down like a pig, I call the feeding of corpses. So I believe this is my conclusion, that is, that you must know how to take a fruit. Okay, but you can't escape the male paradigm. Okay, that male supremacist ethic is always at work, often at work, if not always. So my conclusion is this, that if a man, if he like, can take a proper way to eat a fig, if he wills, otherwise he can adopt a vulgar way as well. But the implication is that there is a chance of knowing the secret of a fruit if it is eaten properly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Ghosh, for this very incisive and deeply, analytical paper. The way you have made a close reading of the Lawrentian poems, close reading of the text would definitely inspire the students and scholars to read these texts, okay, in the light of the interpretation which the Lawrencean critics have provided, and how we should look at the act of eating, the act of consuming, from the perspective of gender violence, okay, and how it becomes essentially a very male supremacist statement, okay, where the entire discourse is gendered, consciously or unconsciously. Okay. So now I would like to open this presentation for questions and discussion. Okay, we don't have much time. Once again, I would like to apologize because we have to leave. We have some urgent assignments. Anyway, we can always take a couple of questions. Please.
Sir, I'm assuming the proper way is the normative way, or the way societal structures are mainly prepared on, the paradigms, the dominant structure that is going on, and the vulgar way is breaking that norm. Now, in that case, I want to ask you a question about the C.G. Rossetti's poem, Goblin Market, and there is also the reference of fruits, and there is also the reference of gendered violence as well. So how can we compare it? And my question is that if the fruit here is actually being signified as the woman body, or the understanding the gendered equation of woman body, is that it?
Thank you for this interesting question. You also have referred to the Goblin Market. Yeah. My idea is, that is, the language of violence, what you call gendered violence, is as much vocal in Lawrence's poem as it is there in Rossetti. Okay. But I believe, you may of course not agree with me, that is, in Lawrence's fruits poems rather, we have the polyphonic voices. That is why he doesn't take sides. Okay, the Italians say, the Romans say. So this is very significant because Sir was talking about the dialogic imagination. Lawrence was capable of dialogic imagination. So after all, you are the reader, you are the close and theoretically informed, sensitive reader. It is left to you to give your judgment. Okay. So for example, Terry Gifford, he in his own way bypasses the question, and he says that, okay, I would like to treat the poems as another, at the voice of another. Okay, because as you know, perhaps these fruit poems all belong to the birds, beasts, and flowers. So how the fruits, flowers, animals, how they belong to another world. But my focus on this very question of representation of fruit as woman's body. And if you allow, the rottenness question is also there. Okay, so that's my point.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, then I fear we have to conclude this session, as we always hear at our back, time's winged chariot hurrying near. So thank you all for your patient hearing, and we close this session here. Okay, thank you.
I kindly ask all the attendees to promptly return to the hall by 2:15 p.m. after the lunch.